I've seen Compton grow in so many ways. Just the culture of Compton is so rich, and I've seen young people, young families, people that have gone to be educated elsewhere and made the intentional decision to come back and to raise their kids there and to open organizations there, businesses. And I've seen such a resurgence in Compton, and I've seen a shift in pride. There was a time when I came into office, people not proud to say that they were from Compton. Young people would tell me, they would tell people they were from, Los Angeles or another city, but people are proud to say that they're from Compton again. And so that warms my heart in such a wonderful way. And I'm grateful for just the improvements to the quality of life. I can go to any area of my city and go to a wonderful new grocery store. We have community gardens and just more options for our city. And it's just, it's a better place to live for families. And so that makes me feel good.
So, Andrew, you're the youngest mayor of Compton. How old were you when you decided you wanted to run for office?
I was about 30 when I made the decision, and I was elected at 31.
And what made you want to do it?
I really didn't want to do it, but I had seen really so many missed opportunities for my community, and I had served there for several years and was just really disheartened by the leadership that we had. And my heart really went out to the working people of Compton that didn't have time to watch their government. And so I began a mission to find a new mayor that would run, and I planned on supporting them behind the scenes because that was my really comfort level. But everyone said absolutely not. And so I decided to take the leap of faith and run myself.
How long ago was that?
Wow, that was now 9 years when I made the decision, but it's been 8 years serving.
And so you can do it better. What happens the first week that you're actually mayor? What do you find when you get there?
Actually, an empty office. There was nothing here. I had really had to establish a whole new system and way of doing things from the ground up. And so have a budget to work from. I literally had to establish everything through partnerships and relationships and still connecting with the community. So it was a huge haul and literally from the ground up.
When you came in, did you have a big group of supporters?
I did. I really won with a coalition of community support, a really diverse, young, old, uh, diverse ethnically as well, and really just people that wanted to see Compton turn the page. And so we came in with a lot of momentum, but we definitely had to establish a new foundation.
Now, a lot of people think Compton, like a lot of people say Inglewood, and they get the two intertwined. Are they intertwined, or is this two very separate places?
Two very separate places. We are located southeast of Inglewood, about 8 miles, but we are two separate municipalities.
What are the things? Have you always lived in Compton?
No, actually, I moved to Compton about 12 years ago. My family's from Compton. My mother, father, they grew up here. And after a tragedy in my mother's family, my mother decided to move out of the city, and she raised my brother and I in Pasadena, which is about 25 miles north of Compton. And I really hadn't spent a lot of time there as an adult until after college. I actually started attending a Bible study in Compton, and then later I came to work in Compton and ultimately bought our first home in Compton.
When you wanted to see things improved, and you get into office, you come in an empty office. What's your first thought about how you do that? Like, is it I got to bring together? I got to have a meeting. Like, what do you think when you get there?
Definitely, I focused on building coalitions and really teams for initiatives. So when I came into office, I had a 12-point strategy, and I really started with some of the hardest issues first, which was crime. I was elected about 30 days later. There was a huge uptick, and so I launched a community safety task force where we brought together every level of law enforcement internally and externally with the city, community organizations, former gang members, everyone, youth experts, everyone that had a hand in various aspects of our community. And then we focused on different initiatives. One was a gang intervention initiative, which was focused on young people, and then a prevention aspect, which again focused on young people, but we developed programs and we pulled resources around a shared strategy. But it was really about bringing different organizations together around a shared mission.
You used former gang members to take back their blocks one by one, yeah?
Yes, and it's been an incredible journey. I've learned so much from them, and really the entire process of just working toward peace and common ground. But I believe that people have so much power, and sometimes we just think we sometimes overlook the people that have the key to their own solution. And so I really understood I didn't have a huge budget to hire more law enforcement officers, so I knew the solutions had to come from the people in our communities.
Now, did you sit down with former gang members and say, well, how do we do this? And then, how did you put a structure around an idea? Or, it sounds like, there used to be this idea of leadership that there's just like a king on top of the whole thing, and they tell people what to do all these different places. But, from a community organizing standpoint, I don't think that's very effective. So how was this a mindset when you came in? Like, how did you think about it?
I always approach solutions really about, I think about how can we build around common ground and common mission. And so when we started the Compton Empowered movement, it really began with a conversation. I asked everyone to come sit down, and when we all did, everyone pulled up a chair. I asked everyone to sit in a circle because we're all equal and yet we're all linked. And I started to ask them questions. I asked them about vision. What did they envision for themselves and their children? What did they want for their families? And that really opened up the dialogue to think beyond where we were today and to really start hoping for where we could be. And that really opened the door for grown men who hadn't seen each other since they were children to reconnect. And I saw grown men crying and hugging, and it was just a great start of healing that took a lot of hard work and commitment. And then beyond that, them to commit to meeting at least twice a week. And so I also, after they made that commitment, I asked them to establish a leader team so that we can have people that will be held accountable to staying on track. And so they self-elected who would be the leaders. And then after that, we started working toward really recovery. We focused on life skills, and those that finished life skills, they did leadership development, and those that graduated from leadership development then had access to unique job opportunities that we curated for those that needed a second chance. And we continued to build from there, but it was really about the decision to work for a better future.
So on one side you have the idea of community organization, but then on the other side you're also thinking about these very, very progressive ideas like universal basic income, right? So how are you getting, is that coming from your education? Where are you getting the idea of universal basic income, and then how are you actually putting that into practice and making it happen in the community?
Definitely, I approach issues with information and also with context from my own personal experiences. Universal basic income, it seemed like a radical idea to many until we entered into a global pandemic and people were forced to really rely on additional aid for the time for some people. But for me, I was raised by a single mother. I recognized firsthand what a basic income could have done for her well-being, for my family. And I'm not talking about thousands of dollars. Even a stipend of $200 would have meant the difference between not having utilities some months or having to move at a certain point when emergencies came up that she just didn't have money to save for. So I understood from a very human perspective that people can benefit from an income floor. And at the same time, I was able to see successful pilots, understood just the history of universal basic income with Thomas Paine, and also obviously Dr. Martin Luther King and his People's Campaign was really focused on the necessities of life and equity through income. And so my fellow brother mayor at the time, Mayor Michael Tubbs, he took the plunge and established the Stop and Seed program. And I was able to see just what guaranteed income could do for people that really had a need.
the network of mayors. We're always talking about, who our senators are and who the president is. We're always having a debate about that. But how important are mayors across this country of ours?
I cannot emphasize enough that mayors are on the front lines of where people live in neighborhoods and communities. And we see all issues. We are the first responders. When people have a need, they don't think, let me call my senator or my congressperson, they call their mayor's office. And so we are really the first line for many people in the community. And so many people say that being a mayor is one of the hardest jobs in politics. And I would agree, because you're literally responsible for everything, and many things you do not have direct power over. And so it's a very unique role, but I think mayors have an awesome opportunity and perspective about what people need and what actually works within communities.
I want to back
Now,
up and ask a quick question though. What made you, I mean, because you were so young, and you were coming back, you had moved back there. What was it like? Why, how did you get the confidence to say, I think I know how to do this? Like, what was that? Was something just instilled in you? Were you always like that? I mean, that's a big, wonderful, incredible thing to do at an early age, right? And you did, and you had a little bit of experience before that. So if you could just let us know a little bit about that.
Sure. I just growing up, I was raised by a strong mother that just raised me to understand that I had the power to address any problem with solutions. And I had studied urban planning, policy, economic development. I dedicated my career. I worked for cities for 10 years before I decided to run. And so I knew what we needed in the community, but I also knew the power of leadership and influence, and what a vision could actually do in order to shift perspectives and to build momentum. And so I was comfortable in the strategy realm, but when people decided that they were not willing to step up, I offered myself as a willing servant to do so, because I recognized what potential my community had, and it broke my heart to not see us reach it. And so I was willing to serve my community to make it better for our kids and those that come after us.
how did you get business involved in change?
Really through, I think businesses really got involved because they were able to coalesce around a very clear and strong vision. I think it's much easier to build relationships and to build support when people can have a clear understanding of your priorities and where you're going and how they can fit into that equation. And so the business community, they were clear as to what our priorities in terms of economic development, in terms of just really full community restoration, and they wanted to be a part of it. And my biggest ask was not to just invest, but to be stakeholders, to really think about how they could use their company structure and their employees to really be force multipliers in the initiatives that we were building together.
So you're rolling along, things are going fine. Do you remember where you were when you heard about, sort of what was happening in Wuhan?
Yes, was actually at home and I was up late watching the news, and I remember hearing about the virus, and I also remember hearing the president kind of downplaying, and it didn't feel right to me, and so I began watching very closely just how leadership and nation was responding to coronavirus, and then ultimately a couple of months later, the imminent shutdown, and then obviously it's been where we are from here. But it was really something that I knew would be a significant impact to not only the nation but to our communities. And I started thinking about the impact to our small businesses and what that would mean for long-term recovery. And so it was something that really I'll never forget. I know it's something kind of once in a lifetime, hopefully. That was really my first kind of experience and perspective on that.
How do you get a city ready for something like that?
One day at a time. We didn't know what to expect. Information changed daily in terms of health guidelines and recommendations and different closures. And so I was just honest with the community with the information that I had. I shared with them that I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I can be certain to tell you the absolute truth, and we'll face it together. And so I actually started doing almost daily briefs with the community to just keep them up to date as to what was happening.
And then do you remember when you started to see Black Lives Matter was really going to become a powerful movement? And what did that mean for the city?
I always felt that Black Lives Matter was a force, and I also recognize that movements take time in order to really build. And so, at the converge of the coronavirus pandemic and all of the unrest, I recognized that it was an opportunity to really bring light to injustices that African Americans have endured for so long. And I think it was a conversation and a series of movements and conversations that the nation needed to have. Just being a Black woman in America, I know in my own life where I've been told that racism doesn't exist and that people need to just move on from slavery, and that these obstacles are invisible, and they don't really have an impact. And so, and that white privilege doesn't exist. So
Who told you all that?
just over the years, being in college and being in places where I'm the only woman, I'm the only Black person, I'm the youngest person, I've encountered a lot. And I, my heart went out for all those people that were hurting, but I also recognized that these were hard conversations that we needed to have as a nation in order for us to really be on the road to healing.
Now you're at that point, you're the city. You have your own opinion about what should happen, but you're also the city, and there's protests going on. So what are your thoughts when that comes together as what we need to do for the city?
My first thought was really wanting to protect our community and to really understand how people felt. And I really wanted to harness the fear and the anger into something positive. And so we actually put together a peace march. And it was a way for people to demonstrate their support for Black lives, but then also for us to come together and not have to respond directly to hate, but to really focus on love and to focus on our commitment to intentionally heal as a community, and to make the commitment to not tear down where we live, but to recommit to build together. And so it was such a beautiful day with thousands of Compton residents of all ethnicities that came out to support just justice. And it was really something that I'll never forget.
What were your thoughts when you saw the insurrection on TV?
Just heartbreaking. Actually, at that point, I wasn't even surprised. We had just seen, I think, a pinnacle of just hate, and really continuing to fan the flames and not acknowledge the pain that people were in. And so it was heartbreaking to see people just obviously storm the Capitol, and to see legislators running for their safety was just, I never thought I would see in my life. But it was really, I think, a pinnacle to, unfortunately, the last president's presidency.
And now we have this opportunity with the Asian communities being impacted. What role and obligation do we have as allies to support the Asian community at this time?
I think all human beings should have a responsibility to stand against all hate. And obviously, what the Asian community are enduring now is something that our nation has seen before, with the Asian community being interned and years ago, and just the backlash of propaganda and hate. And so I think that we must take this moment very seriously. And my hope is that the nation will actually have gun reform comparable to other developed nations. I mean, it makes zero sense when we look at data why we are not making the long-term policy changes necessary to preserve human life on American soil.
When you think about innovations in power or water, or just the different things that we need as cities, how do we get those things into, how do you think about it? Because you have control over the playing field, but not necessarily what all the players are going to do. So how do you think about that from a change perspective in a community like Compton?
Yes, all communities are just so unique on what they have access to, what they have jurisdiction over. In Compton specifically, we do have our own water system. We do have our own sewer system. We have oil that is runs under Compton, and so we've taken a stand to not accept fracking in our community. However, we are continually reinvesting in our own water system to protect the integrity of our water quality. But I believe that there are so many opportunities for a regional intervention to really pull resources and to think about the most efficient way to deliver services to residents in a stable and reliable way. And I think that from a policy standpoint, there's a huge opportunity, almost an obligation in today's times to think about how we can really utilize policy and structures that we know has worked well in other nations. For instance, the UK, they're very advanced in the way that they think about sustainability and how it's intentionally interwoven into their policies, and they have public utilities in certain aspects. And so, where it makes no sense for delivery and cost stabilization. And so, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for our nation to look at some best practices and to really plan for the future in an equitable and sustainable way.
I have a question around, people wanting people to stay. Like you're. I think your mom grew up in Compton. Now you're there, and you're raising your children there, and the importance of that, like the importance of creating a city where people are excited, they want to stay. There's so many incredible things about Compton as well, culturally important, really wonderful. And so how do we also think about that and celebrate that? And are you noticing now as you're getting ready to leave, I'm sure everyone there's pretty sad, are you feeling a sense of real ownership and pride? And does it feel like there's been a change, even with all the horrific things that, the country's experienced, your city's experienced? How are you feeling reflections as you're about to, move on to the next part of your life?
It is definitely a bittersweet time for me. I've seen Compton grow in so many ways. Just the culture of Compton is so rich, and I've seen young people, young families, people that have gone to be educated elsewhere and made the intentional decision to come back and to raise their kids there and to open organizations there, businesses. And I've seen such a resurgence in Compton, and I've seen a shift in pride. There was a time when I came into office, people not proud to say that they were from Compton. Young people would tell people they were from, Los Angeles or another city, but people are proud to say that they're from Compton again. And so that warms my heart in such a wonderful way. And I'm grateful for just the improvements to the quality of life. I can go to any area of my city and go to a wonderful new grocery store. We have community gardens and just more options for our city. And it's just, it's a better place to live for families. And so that makes me feel good. But it's bittersweet to transition, but I'm also very hopeful because we've intentionally built the next generation of leadership, and I see young leaders running for office and being involved and being engaged. And so I know our future is bright because of our young people in the community.
When you first take on being the mayor, do you drive the whole city and meet with people individually?
Yes, actually, as I was campaigning for mayor, I literally walked almost every single street in Compton over a 4-month period, and I met so many people and block clubs and businesses. And after I became mayor, we literally had coalition meetings. I met with groups of neighborhood groups and businesses and different groups of community service providers. And we really focused on, I actually had a forum and brought our community-based organizations together around our vision to figure out how we can pull resources and collaborate. And so my goal was really to asset map and then think about how we could connect people and organizations for a greater impact.
Now, what was the importance of listening in a situation like that?
Listening was essential. I actually didn't even develop my strategy until I had a listening tour. I actually held several community meetings where I intentionally asked everyone the same set of questions and ultimately they informed the Vision for Compton plan. I shared that with everyone. It was my answer to the issues that we raised, and that really made governing and really serving much easier because these weren't my ideas. These were things that the community expressed that they wanted. And so it also provided a strong sense of support and ownership as well from the organizations that helped serve and move these agendas forward.
Now, there were all these streets where there were these motels that had hourly, you could buy an hour of time, and this was a dramatic problem. How did you decide to go after that and face, human trafficking straight on?
Yes, as part of our community safety task force, that was one of our main issues. It was not just gang violence, but also human trafficking. And after listening to our service providers and the businesses in that area, it became very evident, just from a policy standpoint, the opportunity that we had to eliminate hourly motel rentals because tourists they don't visit by the hour, and so the city stepped forward and we approved a new policy that had almost immediate impact. We had a motel shut down because they were no longer able to operate hourly. And so that really continued to get more momentum to address that issue. And human trafficking has been decreased substantially in the city since that new policy was enacted.
So you've done all these things. You've sort of led Compton through a stormy time just with the pandemic and everything. And so when do you get to a place where you say, well, I've done what I came here to do, and now I want to look at new horizons?
I think I'm here now. I am concluding my second term, my eighth year, and I will finish serving June 30th of 2021. And I will take some time to really think about what this next phase of my life looks like. But I can assure you that I will be someplace serving people and just making life better in some way.
You know what I mean? You've obviously dealt with, seeing up close, the what it takes to be a community organizer, to work in government. Like, what do you think? You have to sort of have a unique set of strengths now. What do you think you'll be thinking about applying that to?
We'll see. I plan to. I'd like to work in a consulting capacity on strategies to really focus on revitalization and restoration. I'd definitely like to do some things in community development. I think there's such a rich opportunity to focus on bringing a direct investment, bringing institutions that can actually distribute capital, like community development financing institutions. I'll definitely be doing something with young people. I love kids, but we'll see. The sky's the limit.
I have a
Um,
question for you. Are there other cities that you have become your like sister city, or or have you made friends with mayors over these many years? And also during the pandemic, did you have, did you reach out with each other and kind of share best practices, we would love to know some of those places.
Yes, well, Stockton was one of my sister cities, and we have a very unique history with Stockton. The settlers that found in Compton ultimately came from Stockton, and so our cities have been linked. But Mayor Michael Tubbs, so the former mayor there, we have been good friends for the last 8 years. We've shared information and war stories, and so we work together. And we're now working on the Mayors for Guaranteed Income together. But I have been engaged quite recently. There have been several efforts to pull mayors together during this time. There's a group of female mayors that we're linked around the nation on listservs, and we organize together and support one another. There's also the California Mayors Coalition, which was just started a year ago, really at the onset of the pandemic. And so we've been working together on bipartisan policy issues like equitable funding for smaller cities in order to ensure that when disaster relief is actually dispersed, that small cities are a part of that equation, as we represent 72% of California's population. So the coronavirus pandemic has brought us people and places together in unique ways, and so that's been an opportunity there.
is that the opportunity of the pandemic, is a willingness to work together more, to put ourselves on a stronger footing going forward?
Absolutely. I think that that's so critical and cannot be underscored. I think the pandemic slowed everyone down and didn't really adjusted priorities and perspectives. And I think people are more collaborative, they're less competitive, and they're ultimately more mission driven. And so that's been a byproduct that I'm really happy about.
Well, great. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Thanks for having me. It's been an honor, and you all really cover really interesting, wonderful content. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
And yeah, and good luck. And we're all going to be following you because, I think you're just getting started, honestly.
Yeah.
Got so much that you've learned that you're going to bring forward. So grateful and excited to see where you go.
Thank you, Priscilla, and thank you, Jesse.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Bye.